It's the Human First AI Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Montague with Avenue 9. Find us at avenue9.com, helping small businesses get an outsized impact with their marketing through AI and authenticity, which is exactly what our guest this week, Melissa Shackelford, talks about in her book and in her work at shackelfordconsulting.com. The book is Harnessing Purpose, a Marketer's Guide to Inspiring Connection. And I think that's exactly what we're trying to do with Human First Marketing here, Melissa. So thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And that's where I love your podcast. And I love what you're doing with Avenue 9, because that's what it's all about. It's like, we create connection and still leverage AI to make everything that we're doing easier and better.
Yeah, and before we hit record, we kind of had two things that we're going to talk about here today. One, I think, is balancing authenticity and AI. Both of us are marketers. We love connection. We want to inspire change in people and communities and the human side of things. But also, we got to leverage AI, and the world's changing. We got to figure out how to balance these things and make decisions about it. And inside of that, I think also is the different levels of marketing. Some of the tools that were really expensive for automation and AI, or it took teams of people to do 2 years ago, are now for small business at like $20 a month. And so this world is changing in a lot of different ways. What are you seeing in your work?
I think, when we've chatted about this previously, that both of us came from big corporate worlds. And I came from worlds where Fortune 50 companies or national nonprofits, where I had big teams, big budgets, lots of vendors helping. And then you think, well, what's a small business to do? Or since I'm an independent consultant, how can I leverage that, get that same work done? Well, I can through all these tools. And it's really, it's kind of flattening the playing space, because back in the day, you had to have the copywriting department, you had to have your proofreaders, you had to have all these designers, you had to have all these analysts, you had to have all these different people that now, you don't really, if you know how to work it. And it's become really inexpensive. You're right. I mean, you might be paying $20 a month to, 10 different places, but you're still at a whole different cost structure than having a whole team overseas to do your design, or a team of copywriters. It's a whole different world.
Even in like Salesforce at $100 a month per user or whatever, plus some sort of Salesforce agency that you were paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to customize and optimize the reports that you need and sync up the tools that you need. It feels like a totally different world. And I love what you said about leveling the playing field. I wonder if sometimes it's switched. I think personally, for small and medium-sized businesses, they have an advantage. And I know you come from healthcare, so I can't wait to ask you questions about that too. Because especially in something like healthcare or banking, when there's a ton of regulations and nobody can post anything and all these AI tools are banned, if you're a happy little startup and you can figure out how to protect your customer data and private stuff, you can actually beat and be faster than these larger companies in the space.
Absolutely, 100%. And I think you're right. I think we should look at it as that the nimble, small to medium-sized companies, or even independent folks, can be taking advantage of all these tools now, because the big companies are all having departments to try to, in meetings to figure out how to do AI governance. What tool can they test today? And okay, we're only going to test it over in this corner. And how do we do this, when smaller, scrappier organizations can just say, hey, we're going to try out, I heard about a new tool, I'm going to test it out. Let's test it out. Let's read it. I think you're right to look at it from that perspective, that these days, not only can the smaller organizations without the big budgets do all the same things that the Fortune 500 are doing, but they much quicker, because they can test and learn. And I mean, healthcare is just like any other highly regulated industry. You have to be very cautious about your customer data and privacy, but there's a lot of things, there's a lot of layers that the really big companies put on top that do you really need to do that? Some of that you can be a little more scrappy and a little bit more nimble.
I'm assuming most people listening to this are not in one of those highly regulated areas, but Yeah, think about just the layers of bureaucracy and decision making and the fear and the way it's always been done. I've been saying I think you can really notice right now tools that were like legacy tools like Salesforce and HubSpot, where adding AI onto it, or even Microsoft with Copilot, like there's a difference between Copilot and ChatGPT, even though they're essentially the same technology.
Yeah.
It's like one was plopped on top of all these legacy tools, the other one was built from scratch to, with this idea and capability in mind. And I think you can even think about businesses that way, that some of these legacy companies are just going to take forever because they have a lot of money and a lot of people and a lot of jobs at stake for the old way of doing things. That this is a chance to really do something new, be proactive. And this to me is not a fad. I don't know what you think. We've seen a lot of different fads and stuff in our careers in marketing. I feel a kinship with you here about our careers, and I want to ask you about that in a second. But we've seen like things like Vine or other stuff pop up, and you're like, okay, yeah, that's a nice little fad. It's a nice trending. Maybe we need to start doing some more video or something, but we could be strategic and we could take our time with those. This feels like a fundamental shift, like the web or e-commerce or social media, that is going away, and it's going to disrupt the winners and losers here for the foreseeable future.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I think about, like you mentioned, Salesforce. I mean, a few years back, Salesforce had some little AI tools built in that you could use that would, do this. It wasn't anything like we're seeing today. So it was like they were dabbling back then, but they didn't quite go all the way. And now they're kind of behind, so they're shifting their whole model. The whole shift today, I heard someone the other day say it was a little bit like it came out with smartphones. And you think about back, okay, yes, when we got cell phones, that was fine. Everyone had a little flip phone. But then when we got smartphones, it was like, oh, wait, I've got a computer in my pocket, and I can do everything. And you think about how that changed everything for us. And that's kind of how I look at it today. I mean, we knew this was coming. We all watched like the Jetsons when we were kids. We all saw the Terminator. We knew all this kind of stuff was coming. I don't think we realized how much it would help us individually. I didn't, for myself, didn't realize how much it would help me. And I didn't realize how open I'd be to trying out new things that other people suggest. I think when I was still in the corporate world, I think I wouldn't have, because of all, like you said, the bureaucracy and the red tape, getting permission to try anything new. And then what you had is these massive infrastructure projects. Like, I want to do Salesforce, or I want to do marketing automation, and I have to hire all these expensive vendors, and I have to get these are internal approvals. Well, now that I'm working for myself, I can be much more nimble and just say, I heard about a cool tool, I'm going to try it out.
I wanted to ask you more about that, because I think you experienced the same thing I did, which is it feels like the time for an opportunity to be nimble and to be a fractional CMO, and that you can get experienced marketers like us who have decades of experience at very large companies. You can hire them for your small business now, and we don't need to bring that team. Before, I didn't feel like it was a viable option, because it was kind of like, to do what I got to do, like you mentioned, we need this outsourced agency, we need pay-per-click people, I need graphic designers, all this stuff. And so I think there was a larger gap where if you're going to hire a high-end consultant, it was going to cost a lot of money. And then if you were going to hire a fractional CMO or a local one, it felt like maybe it's some kid in some mom's basement who can't get a real job yet. And I know for me, it changed where I got to this point in my career that I have the connections if I need them, but these tools really changed the game. It really made me feel like I can make an outsized impact for a smaller company, and that maybe I couldn't make my maximum impact at a larger company. But why did you decide to do here recently?
So I've had a little bit of a side gig for quite some time, and I had a lot of people in my life who had been working on their own and kind of encouraged me in the last few years.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of came out that I had a bunch of opportunity, and I felt that this was just telling me now it's time. It was always my plan down the road. I'd been working to build my brand and online and working to, I had a little did a lot of thought leadership. I had a little website, and it was just like the universe told me it was time because there's an opportunity. But I think you're right. I think, 5 years ago, I don't think I could be doing what I'm doing today or having the impact that I'm having because I would need a team. I mean, goodness gracious, in my role, I think hours and hours and hours that I or my team spent building PowerPoints. I mean, just that alone. And when someone said, "Oh, there's tools out there that do that, and they're amazing, and they do it just like that."
Gamma's my favorite tool. I think by far biggest return of any AI tool that I've
seen. Same, absolutely. And people who aren't in roles like ours don't understand that, but just think about everything's about a deck. Well, these days, when you can do it so quickly, that's been really, really my favorite tool. I know there's other ones out there like that, but that was the first one I tried and I loved it. And I thought, okay, yeah, I'm all in on this because why spend hours and hours and hours building that? I didn't think it would be as cool as it was, but that's one for sure that anybody in roles like ours who understands the world of building PowerPoints and spending half your life doing that. Yeah, that's what AI should be doing. AI should be doing that manual labor that anybody can do. It just takes a lot of time.
Anybody that's been in a marketing position before is also laughing that, like, I think sometimes the CEO just thinks your job is to make the PowerPoint look pretty.
Yes.
That's your entire job.
Oh my gosh. We got a marketing support group because yes, absolutely. That's what so many CEOs think, that marketing makes the PowerPoints, makes them look pretty, or makes one pagers. And
yeah,
it's like, there's so much more to marketing. We're so data driven, we're strategic. But you're right. And that's where
don't forget a good old fashioned press release too. If you can throw on, I think if you do those three skills, you can be successful in corporate marketing for sure.
100%.
You make a one sheet of PowerPoint and press release, you have a nice long career. Well, I shouldn't say that because I think AI is going to disrupt a lot of that. And I think there's going to be turnover here in some of the decision making, but I could be wrong. But I got out. I didn't want to do that part anymore, really. I was like, there's so much more cool stuff. So I want to nerd out and talk about these tools. I made a list on the website. If you go to avenue9.com, there's a list of my top 9 tools. And Gamma is currently number 3, but it should definitely be number 1. I think I put them in size of investment and impact, not necessarily return investment, which is what I should have done. But Gamma's at the top of my list. What's on your list for cool tools?
Gamma's absolutely at the top of my list. I didn't put it at number 1, but yeah, Gamma has to be there just because it's people in our roles understand PowerPoint is the bane of our existence, but it's necessary and it just is. You can't do anything better. I'm a huge fan of Grammarly. I run everything that I write through Grammarly. I feel like it's now my outsourced proofreader, and I enough about that. I think everybody needs to be using Grammarly. Like, why not? It's
I've been using it for like 10, 12 years now, I think. But
yeah,
that was a game changer in my career. For sure.
Yeah, it's just kind of table stakes. I think that's one of those things that I love and I use constantly. Of course, I'm going to say ChatGPT. Yeah, I love ChatGPT. It's my brainstorming partner. I run so many things and so many questions through there. I don't do like my personal health, and I've heard people do that to like feed it all of your information. So I haven't really done that. But from a professional standpoint, I love it, and I feel like it's my teammate. And I just think all of us should be leveraging for things like that. Really, it's the brainstorming. It's letting me bounce ideas off. It's helping me create lists of things. It's amazing. And a newer one.
Personal assistant there, like when you're making marketing stuff, we used to have teams, and that's what you're for, right? Like, hey, I need somebody to come up with titles for this blog post, or I need, social media copy, or I need somebody to listen to this podcast and write the description and tag the keywords for it. And all that stuff was a lot of manual work for a long time. And it's so nice to have this really smart virtual assistant. And I did just recently, I'll encourage you, I had all of my leftover personality profiles from being in the corporate world. So I took my disc, my Strengths Finder, I put my Enneagram and my Myers-Briggs test and uploaded all of them to ChatGPT. and just said, hey, tell me what you know about me or remember this information and for my strengths and weaknesses and stuff. And it was fascinating.
That's a really interesting idea. I love that. So then it becomes your personal kind of executive coach as well, that's super cool. I'm going to try
Yeah,
that.
you can segment these off. Sometimes they spill over a little bit. Either create a custom GPT
Yep.
in a pro account and just say, this is my personal assistant one. Or what I did was give it some special instructions that if I use different names or different functions. So if I say like, if I use this client name, I want you to use this structure, this format. And if I use my personal name or I want you to access this for personal reasons, then use this information. But sometimes I notice some spillover. So if you don't want to mess up your marketing with your personality profile, maybe do a custom GPT. But I really enjoyed it. It was fun, and it's been a lot more fun with me since I uploaded it. So
no, I love that. I love that. I think when you just about like almost transcripts or looking for keywords or things, I think, when I look back back in the day, at a corporate job I had, we started a podcast and we wanted to leverage it in a lot of different ways. We'd take the transcript and we'd modify that and publish that. We would closed caption things. We'd look for keywords. Well, like you've got a tool like CapCut. Here's your closed captions. Here's your transcript. Bam. And it seems like, oh, yeah, of course the tool should do that. A few years back, the tools did not. It was a whole.
We were paying people overseas to listen to it and type out the words.
It was such a drama.
3 years
And
ago.
like these days, it seems so basic. So that's where you think in a year or two, what are we doing today that's going to be basic? But that seems so basic. So like, who am I to be like a video editor? Or I can do that with CapCut. Oh my gosh, I can do that. And even
script for that, but yeah, and Riverside and some other tools, same thing.
Yes.
Whichever one is your own personal preference, I think great. But certainly for content creation, all of those tools are awesome and super fun to use, and
it's just
makes everything so much easier.
Yeah, and it's like how it should be. It definitely should be that way. I even think so. I am not a designer at all. I am not a digital marketing expert. But what I will say is I can throw a lot of things together in Canva these days. And Canva's got some really interesting AI tools that a few years ago, of course, paying a designer to do. Yes, designers still have a huge role. And yes, I have designers in my network that are just amazing. But when it's something super basic, I can do it myself. And that's where, especially like we were talking about being an independent kind of fractional CMO, I need to be able to do a lot of that myself, the basics, and then bring in an expert and bring in a designer or bring in a true copywriter when needed. But those things, well, I've got Canva, I've got CapCut, I've got Grammarly, I've got a lot of tools that help me that I don't need to bring in all of those people and bring the cost with it.
The big difference for me, I think, when I switched was the ability to scale, which is in that corporate world, those social media graphics would cost $50 to $100 a piece, which is not bad for a corporate budget, and you can afford a certain amount of those. But video sometimes was like $500,000 a minute, and up to more. So I've seen up to quoted $10,000 a minute for a speaker reels or commercials or demo reels and stuff. And so I think it really limits what you can do, even at the large size. But for a smaller, medium-sized business, you're like, okay, well, we can do one video a year then.
Yeah.
All of a sudden it's, if we spend $100 on this tool and, we have somebody go through and edit, all of a sudden we're making hundreds of videos for that same price where we were getting one before. It makes your life so different. So have that graphic designer spend the $1,000 to make the template, and then use the template and their tools 1,000 times over.
Yeah. When you say video like that, I think about different corporations that I've worked for, and where you'd budget for, we could do one, maybe 2 videos this year, and that's really different. But are they, have they gotten to the world where they can be quite as nimble as a small or mid-sized company? Maybe not yet. But that's where I think about all those video shoots that we've done, and even just in photo shoots, so that we could have our own photos because we wanted whatever product in the photo. Tremendously expensive. And why do you have to do that? Because honestly, you could throw the AI can throw the product in the picture anyway these days. So some of the stuff, yes, you still need amazing videographers and amazing photographers for certain situations, but for some of those basics and for really leveling the playing field between a small company and a big company that's got those deep pockets, it's a whole different world. And that comes to what your comment was earlier about who's taking advantage of all this and who can be nimble. And so it's not even just leveling the playing field in some respects, because a small company can come out with tons of videos that look professional at cheap cost. It totally changes things. No longer is marketing the drag on the organization that people felt that it was.
I love all of that, but and I think we've really done a really cool episode here. But I can't let you go without talking about the book and how do we do these things without losing our purpose, our authenticity, our voice, and still getting the connection. Because I do see people that kind of don't know about marketing whatsoever, just grab one of these tools and say, oh, I can have ChatGPT write 1,000 LinkedIn posts for me. I'll just copy and paste them all in there. Yeah. And it doesn't mean that they're any good. It doesn't mean that they're going to connect with anybody. You're going to grow a following with that. So tell us about your book and the importance of purpose in all of this.
Well, and that's what I always talk to small and mid-sized companies, that you need to have that alignment of your values, your personal values, your organization's values, and that needs to come through in your communication to your customers. That's how you build that meaningful connection with them. When you think about, I mean, they all talk about Gen Z wants to shop where they have an alignment with their values. I think it's way more than just Gen Z. I think all of us want to work with brands that we think are meaningful and that align with what we believe in. So yes, you can see like Tums, the shoe company, they give away a pair of shoes every time you buy it. That's a great idea. Wonderful. Not everybody can afford to do that or something like that. But with the same sort of process and the same sort of vision, everybody can do that. You really have to, it's almost like walking the walk and talking the talk, because sometimes you see big organizations, and there's a few of them in the news these days, who say they stand for something, and then you hear about things they do that don't match. Not just Gen Z, kind of every consumer is going to say, well, maybe you guys aren't authentic. Maybe I don't trust you. And just because I work in healthcare, trust is really the key currency with brands. And because when you think about it, there's nothing more precious than our healthcare and our loved ones' healthcare. And every single one of us is a healthcare consumer. And so building that trust with your customers comes down to just things like having consistency in your messaging, having empathy in your messaging, and having transparency in your messaging. And in order to have that transparency, you kind of need to know who you are to start with. And you don't have to be some nonprofit or some mission-driven brand to have alignment with your values and what you're doing. So same thing. Yes, you can have ChatGPT write all of your LinkedIn posts for your company. Maybe they're fine. I'm not against like having ChatGPT write your LinkedIn post. But when you're talking about building meaningful connections with your customers that are going to last, you might want to think about bringing your own values and your sort of what's your North Star into that, because that's what starts to create these connections. And we know it's all about that lifetime value of your customer. So how do you get those customers to stick with you, to trust you, and to have repeat business?
Yeah, I think for me, there's 3 or 4 things in there that are important. Like, you have to know what's fun for you and what your purpose is and what your unique value is. So you don't automate that part. You automate all the other BS around it, right? Otherwise, if you're an artist and you really love painting, you don't have a robot do the painting so that you can go sell them. If you love selling, great. Maybe you do. You have robots make, manufactured paintings so you can sell more of them. But you got to decide what your purpose, your passion is, and automate around that. I think also you have to think about your customers. So many people miss the customers in this. And I just had a major move. And so I can't tell you how many customer service phone calls I've had to make where I'm sitting on hold for 20 minutes and they say, we really value your call. And you're like, no, that means you clearly don't. If you did, somebody would have answered the phone by now. This is the 12th time I'm hearing you value my time and my money as a consumer.
Yeah.
And so I think we have to think about, are we automating the things that our customers find value in? And are we doing things that are in their best interest as we add AI to stuff? Because sometimes if I just want to know the hours your place is open or what my balance is or whatever, great. I don't need a human to do that. It's faster and easier for me to do that online. But if I need to solve a problem that is out of the normal workflow, I need to be able to talk to a human. I need to be able to connect.
Well, and even with your move, I'm sure you need to find kind of who are your regular vendors or organizations that you're going to work with. And some are going to just feel like, oh, I feel like I'm aligned with this organization. They seem like their values are my values. I can really understand who they are, what they stand for. And those are the organizations that you're going to continue to work with. When you have a bad experience, at the grocery store, at the new dentist, at whatever, you're not going to go back, but you're going to go back to the ones that value you as a customer.
Yeah, we mentioned the grocery store earlier too, but there was one I went into, and I went in there the first time. It was great. I was like, this is my new grocery store. Second time I went in there, they have no self-checkout lanes, and they were down to 3 people. The line was so long, it was wrapping around the store, and people are just ending carts because it was like a 30-minute wait to check out. And I had just run back because I forgot a couple of items the first time. So I only had like 3 items in my hand that were all cold items. It's like, I can't stand here for 30 minutes, express lane to not check out and have all my stuff get warm. Like, that is clearly a problem, and maybe one where the self-checkout and AI could have helped the situation. But we're getting sidetracked.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's roll it back. All right, I got a couple of more questions for you. Okay. Number one is, where do you think this is all going? What do you think marketing looks like in the future? Let's say 10 years from now.
I don't want to be one of those doomsday people who says there will be marketing, because I think there's going to be a lot of different roles, especially at the entry level, because like we said, you and I have had some of these really big corporate roles. We understand how that works. We can bring a ton of value to small and medium-sized businesses in our work today, because we know how it's done, and we know how it's done with big budgets, and we know what we can do with the smaller budgets and the more nimble. I think if I was a new marketer in the next few years, I'd want to be more of a generalist. I'd want to definitely understand how I can use all these AI tools. I think it'll be really tough to say I'm going to be a copywriter and I'm a very junior person these days. I need to be able to do all these different things. I need to know how to be a copywriter that leverages SEO. I need to be able to do a little bit of everything. And so that more generalist role, I think, will come about, probably as right now, but even in the near term. I think longer term with marketing, I'm going to speak for health. So, because we're probably not as advanced as some other industries, but Netflix has ruined a lot of things for marketers, because everyone as a consumer thinks that, well, whatever organization is speaking to them needs to know anything about them, needs to serve up the right recommendations. And so we're not quite there today in healthcare. It's still a lot of mass marketing, but I think in the future, we're going to be able to leverage all these tools to really, truly do authentic personalization, not just the sort of a random personalization we see today. But if I got from my healthcare organization the same sort of, like, they know me, like the Amazon recommendations, always Amazon nails it every time for me. Netflix, same thing. When they serve up,
I think it's the Instagram feed.
Yes,
50% of those ads, I'll click on and be like, wait, why am I doing this again?
Because they know you so well. And so that's the thing. I feel like in the future, even for healthcare, we're going to be able to serve up information where they're going to, if I was pre-diabetic, they're going to know it before I know it. There's just so many things that really, if I can serve up the right communication, the right marketing, it's a whole different, I think it's just going to get better and better. And I believe that because marketing's costs are going to come down, that your CFO, your CEO are not going to look at marketing as a drag on the organization. They're going to start to see that marketing really a revenue generator. Not that we haven't always been, but it's been a little bit more difficult to show that, especially when we've had to have these massive advertising budgets, and we're not going to need to have all that, those massive budgets in the future.
All right. And then if you zoom out, if we say within our lifetimes, like 30 years from now, which sci-fi movie do you think we end up in? You mentioned Jetsons, Terminator, Matrix, any others that you either hope we end up in or think?
So my sci-fi taste is a lot more kind of the apocalypse, and that's just what the movies and the books that I read and I watch. And so I don't think it's going to end up to be a zombie apocalypse, but for whatever reason, those are all the books and movies that I watch.
If it does, you'll be prepared though.
I will. I believe me, for a while I was doing this whole series of books about, and I had to stop because it was starting to
I used to be a prepper after the 7th season of The Walking Dead, where I'm like, just in case.
Yes, believe me. Yeah, I've had those conversations with my husband, but I hope it gets to be more. And I'm only going to say this because my niece is a huge Star fan. I'm hoping it's a little bit more Star Trek than The Walking Dead, or even like Terminator with Skynet. Yeah. I'm hoping it's more that. And really, I say that because I think at least in some of those I have a mixed race family, and I look at some of those, like the Star Trek, the entire soup to nuts, the different things. They were always very mixed race on everything they did. And it just seemed like they were accepting of difference and all of that. And I think they also use their technology for good. So in my book, I talk about marketing as a force for good, but I think technology can be a force for good, and we shouldn't have to be afraid of it. I still think the whole Skynet, it might take over. Maybe we should all contemplate that a little bit.
It's probably a non-zero chance, right? I love that phrase, the non-zero chance, from all the nerds.
Yes, but I don't as
a possibility, but I like where you're going.
I tell you, most of mine, because I do a lot of books and movies, and that most of mine are the dystopian bad things happen, and I don't know what that says about me, but those are what I am attracted to, and I'm glad you're not saying you think it's going to be a Walking Dead future.
No, Minority Report, also a non-zero chance. I think we got to factor that in a little bit. But Melissa, thank you so much for your time and thoughtful answers. It was a fun chat. The book is Harnessing Purpose, A Marketer's Guide to Inspiring Connection. You can go to harnessingpurpose.com to check out the book. You can go to shackelfordstrategies.com if you want to connect with Melissa as well. A good follow on LinkedIn. Melissa, anything else we can do to help you, or you can do to help us?
No, just connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to continue the conversation, and love to chat with people about not just AI, but also bringing purpose into their marketing.
Amazing. And for Avenue 9, we're helping small and medium-sized businesses have that outside impact by multiplying your authenticity and your purpose there, as Melissa says, with your automation and AI, and amplifying what you can do, the people you can help and reach. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, reach out to me. LinkedIn is great, or avenue9.com. Until next time, keep going. Have fun, everybody. Bye.